Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let's get on to our topic,
Absolutely.
apathy and complacency among the youth. What are you seeing out there, being that you work with them all the time and speak to them?
Well, mostly what I see is there's a spirit of entitlement. Okay, so this generation,
Isn't that true?
this generation wants everything for free. And this has occurred because the generation who's prior, not necessarily prior, but it's actually skipped a generation, because the generation who's parenting these kids right now are the backside of the baby boomer generation, which has just started to retire out. But it's their kids that are now coming out. So the boomer generation, who's still trying to stay young, has kids who they've thrown money at, who've thrown opportunity and just said, hey, I'm going to throw stuff at you to make you happy, but I'm not going to, in replacing spending time with you. That's one thing that I'm seeing out there in the youth right now. The other thing is that students don't have the skills necessary to go out and be self-sustaining and self-sufficient citizens. Meaning they don't know what it takes to go out and get a decent paying job, you know, handle all of their financial responsibilities, even know how to manage all of that. Neither do they know how to effectively communicate. You know, one of the hardest things of this generation that I constantly hear is they have difficulty transforming what they think and what they feel into words because they don't have the vocabulary to be able to express themselves.
They don't know how to read and write anymore.
And so if they can learn how to increase their vocabulary and learn the necessary interpersonal skills to go out and maybe land a job interview, or surround themselves with mentors who can teach them what it takes to maybe own their own business or start a nonprofit organization or go work with any of those, you know, corporate organizations or nonprofit organizations. But the kids these days don't have a passion. They don't live with passion, and so they end up living, or as I say to them, they exist. It's exactly what they do.
Yep.
They wake up in the morning and that's what they do. Whatever comes their way, that's what they react to. And there's no intention behind their living. They're not living intentionally.
Wow.
And so that's really the
That is
number one
They're
thing.
not living intentionally.
That is directly what contributes to the fact that they're apathetic towards the community, towards the sick, the injured, the ill. They see all of this negative, evil, quote unquote, evil happening in the world, but they're not willing to do anything. Only a small select few are willing to take a stand and go out and invest their time, their energy, possibly what little money they have into trying to make a difference. And so they see a problem that's so grand, that's so huge, and they say, well, I don't know how I can help, so I'm just not going to do anything. And so they shun the things that really matter and end up making decisions and creating behaviors that don't necessarily contribute positively to their community, to their dreams,
To them, to their life.
To them. And so, you know, the youth of this generation, the one thing that I see every single day is their smile. I can tell somebody who has passion if they have a smile on their face, even in the midst of utter chaos like we're experiencing right now.
Yes.
You know, the economy's gone down. School systems, budgets are being cut. Teachers are getting stressed out. They don't have enough resources, opportunity, and support. So now...
And kids are so ugly and mean and hateful and rough. They really are. And like you said, they demand, like, they think they deserve something that, I don't know where they got that from, probably us, right? The parents. We taught them wrong.
Well,
we gave them too much.
Exactly. You know, it's not so much that you gave them too much, because I think that there's a biblical principle in giving, but it's like you heard the old saying that says, you know, give a man a fish and he'll eat once, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yes.
That's the same principle that I try to tell these kids. It's that, you know, if you want to go out and be a doctor, a lawyer, or a, you know, pharmacist, or have any occupation that you really want, or that is put on you as an obligation, you know, as parents, we want the best for our kids, but that may not necessarily be what that individual student wants. They might want to go be a graphic designer or be an artist or a musician. And so if the lack of support is not there from their parents or their support system, then they immediately become at risk. And so then they shut down because they don't feel like they're understood.
Wow, that's good.
And so if I try to communicate with you, but you don't understand where I'm coming from, and your advice to me is nowhere appropriate or relevant to what I'm trying to express, then as a youth, I'm shutting down. I'm just going to pull the switch and I'm shut down.
Like, oh, forget it. They don't understand me. They don't. And people want their kids to be maybe something that they were, instead of letting them. God gave each person their own individual thing. And if you can spot that in your child as a youngster, and you can push them towards that mark, then I think that they'll flourish.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I'm excited. I feel like I've been blessed in that. But
yes,
yeah.
You have indeed. I had a chance to meet your daughter and your son, and they are an amazing group of individuals. And so, you know, the same thing with the youth, that apathetic component in their lifestyle, in order to solve that problem, they have to be put in environments and experiences that give them the opportunity to grow.
Wow.
And they have to have the resources, maybe not financial,
right,
but they have to have resources. Maybe it's literature, maybe it's books. You know, I go into inner cities where there's poverty. I've gone to St. Louis, and there's, you know, poverty is the normal. And life, what I call life beyond the block, you know, these students, these youth, they can't see beyond the 16 miles in each direction, beyond the liquor store, beyond the tire shop, beyond the convenience store, and the church. And it kind of goes in that order, block by block.
right.
And so they're, you know, I'm really kind of oversimplifying this, but that's the reality, is that they don't see the big picture. They don't see that they have opportunity, because they've never been presented with options.
So we just have 1 minute left to this segment. Explain to the youth that might be watching, or the parent, how they can actually attain that goal, to not have that apathy or that compliancy spirit around them.
Yeah. The first thing that I would say is they have to get authentic. They have to really search their heart and look at their environment and their conditions and say, am I happy, or am I right? And see, we have a tendency to always want to be right, not be happy. And so that's why people continue living in poverty. So regardless of what's going on around it, they're comfortable, they're content, their apathy plays into complacency. And so rather than growing, see, people think that if I don't do anything, then I'll be okay. But in fact, they're disintegrating, because you're always either moving forward or moving backwards. So if I was a parent, I would say, how can I help myself as an individual? Because I can't give what I don't have.
Right.
So how do I help myself as an individual feel better, look better, and be a better person overall? And I would say to a youth that's watching, if there's somebody who is in your life who can point you in the direction, maybe it's not your parents, but maybe it's someone who you can share honestly and openly and say, this is where I want to go, and ask this one question: would you be willing to help me?
Wow. Would you be willing to help me?
Would you be willing to help
somebody that
me?
they know cares about them and wants to see them go forth, even if it's a teacher, like you said, a mentor, an aunt and uncle, an older brother, sister, friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Thank you so much, Daniel. This has been great. We want to quickly go to the information so people know how to get in touch with you. To reach Daniel Santiago, he is a motivational speaker and author. His phone is 480-316-4400. His email, daniel@danielsantiago.org. And the website is danielsantiago.org. And I know on your website, I went to it, and it has you sharing at some schools and things. So that was very good. And thank you so much for what you're doing for the youth out there. I appreciate it, and I know our viewing audience does. And we really quick are going to run to a 30-second PSA, and we'll be right back.